Greetings, wonderful audience. Amarjit here from our PTE classes. I hope you all are doing well. Do subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed yet, and share these videos with your friends who are preparing for PTE. And if you need any kind of additional help like online and offline classes, then you can contact me. My contact number is given in the description box. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss listening filling the blanks. So these listening filling the blanks are from different accents and at a high speed, because when we start preparing for PTE, then we recharge one website कि हम एक ही website से practice करते हैं and we are familiar with that particular accents only. But in exam we got different accents, so this is the reason that you are getting low score in the writing section. So these listening filling the blanks are from the different accents and at the different speed. So keep your pen and paper ready along with this video, and you can also follow some grammar rule. And in listening filling the blanks, always practice with different accent and at a high speed like at 1.2. And proofreading is very important in listening filling the blanks. Once you have completed the writing, then check your spellings. And basic grammar is mandatory in listening filling the blanks, because sometimes we follow the rules of grammar. So do it carefully and let's start. So listen carefully.
Sweet potatoes contain fiber, vitamin A, and calcium, but the way that scientists think they can make them even more healthful is literally shocking. Researchers found that giving a jolt of electricity to sweet potatoes increased the level of antioxidants known as polyphenols by 60%. The investigators placed sweet potatoes in a solution of sodium chloride. They found that 0.2 amps of direct current gave the potatoes nearly 1.5 times more antioxidants than potatoes that weren't shocked. The research was presented at the National Meeting of the American Chemical Society. It seems that the electric zap stressed the potatoes into producing more polyphenols as a protective mechanism, and the treatment did not sacrifice flavor. Previous research has shown that electrically supercharging white potatoes increases antioxidant levels, so perhaps it's only a matter of time before other fruits and vegetables get shock therapy too.
So first one is the calcium. Check your spellings. Next is electricity. So here it is no grammar rule. A jolt of electricity. Investigators. Next is stressed. So here it is third form of verb. It seems that the electric zap stressed. Next one is the mechanism, or you can say mechanism. And last one is the therapy. So I hope you noted all these spellings. So here are the spellings. You can check your spellings. Next. Keep your cursor here.
Icy objects such as comets may have helped start life on Earth by delivering water and carbon-based molecules to the young planet, because putting something on ice doesn't necessarily keep it from changing. A new study finds that even in frigid, deep space environments, simple hydrocarbon molecules can react to become more complex ones. The process even works when temperatures drop to near absolute zero. But just what kind of organic molecules would exist on the icy bodies of a forming solar system? Researchers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, investigated how organic molecules might evolve toward greater complexity, even in the cold of interstellar space. The scientists found that ultraviolet light, which radiates from stars and galaxies, can induce rapid changes in icy hydrocarbon molecules cooled to 5 Kelvin. That's a frosty minus 451 degrees Fahrenheit. The chemical reactions resulted in molecules of more complexity, which is the right direction to go if you want to eventually make amino acids and biological molecules. The study appears in the Astrophysical Journal Letters. It just goes to show, if you really want to freeze something in place, you'd better encase it in carbonite.
So first one is delivering. First one is delivering. Check your spellings. Next one is necessarily. So first write down the necessarily. 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 Next one is temperatures. So check your spellings of temperatures. Organic. It's not organics. What kind of? Next one is complexity. Next is induce. Which is the right direction? And next one is freeze. So let's check the spellings. First one is delivering. Check your spellings of necessarily. Temperatures. Here it is temperatures. Organic, complexity, induce, direction and freeze. Next one. Keep your eyes on the screen and your hand on the notepad.
Secret identities aren't just for superheroes anymore. Researchers have found that a protein present in everything from amoebas to people is living a double life. Once it binds to DNA, the protein, called RFAH, rips apart and then refolds into a different shape to do a different job. RFAH is a transcription protein. Attached to or freed from a stretch of DNA, it determines if a gene is expressed or not. But once the protein has carried out its task, its helical structure unravels. Within seconds, it refolds into a barrel structure, which has a new role, this time in translation, where it helps the cell produce amino acids for new proteins. The study is in the journal Cell. The next step is to find out if the barrel can refold into the helix. After that, researchers want to see if proteins similar to RFAH, which are present in all life on Earth, are capable of comparable molecular contortion, which would mean a lot more bang for our protein buck.
So first one is the protein. So you can find the spellings within the paragraph also. So first one is that of protein. So you can check the spellings of protein from here also. So first one is protein. So you can check spellings from here. Next one is apart. Next is determines. I think it determines. Next is its helical structure. So check your spellings of structure from here. Next is translation. Next one is similar and are capable of comparable. So check your spellings. Protein, apart, determines, structure, translation, similar and comparable. Next one. Always try to note down in the vertical direction.
Some people turn their homes into pack rat middens. Such hoarding was thought to be a type of obsessive-compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. But in the most recent diagnostic manual of psychological disorders, hoarding is proposed to be a unique condition. It's now thought to be more about avoiding making decisions about possessions than a general obsession with them. In a recent study, scientists compared the brain activity of hoarders with that of those with OCD, while the subjects were deciding whether to keep or toss their own junk mail and the junk mail of others. Ownership did not affect the brain activity or choices of those with OCD, but the hoarders were different. Their decision-making brain circuit was quiet when contemplating others' mail, but became overactive for decisions about their own mail. Not surprisingly, hoarders kept significantly more of their own mail than the OCD group did. The study is in the Archives of General Psychiatry. Hoarders' self-ratings of indecisiveness correlated with the amount of activity in brain circuits related to exaggerated perception of the risk of a wrong decision. The researchers suggest that hoarding behavior has its own specific symptoms and should be treated differently than OCD.
So first one is psychological. Next one is possessions. POSS, then ESSIONS. Possessions. Now here the line is ended, others with full stop. Now you can start next letter with capital. First letter will capital. Ownership. So the first word of the letter will remain capital. Next is significantly. Next one is correlated. Next is perception. Psychological, possessions, ownership with capital O, significantly with single L in the end because it's a LY. Next one is correlated, CORRELATED. Then next one is perception.
We sign our names to various documents all the time. Some signatures seal a legal contract. Others pledge us to an action. Now a study finds that when and where someone signs a document can influence the likelihood of them being honest or cheating. Scientists had people sign more than 1,300 auto insurance forms. One group signed at the top of the form, the other at the bottom. And those who signed at the top admitted to nearly 2,500 more miles of usage than those who signed at the bottom, which translated into about a $48 difference in annual premiums. According to the researchers, because the top signers put their names on the document before they were even tempted to fabricate information, they are less likely to act dishonestly. The study is in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Many people routinely deceive themselves to rationalize dishonest behavior. The $345 billion gap between what people should be paying in U.S. taxes and what they claim isn't just due to chronic liars. It also depends on normally honest people stretching the truth. Perhaps having taxpayers sign their forms before filling them out would cut down on that stretching.
So first one is signatures. Signatures. Second is likelihood. Likelihood. Insurance. Tempted to fabricate. Themselves to rationalize. Rationalize. Chronic. Next is stretching. So let's check the spellings. Signatures, likelihood. So first you have to write likely, then hood. Insurance, fabricate, rationalize. So first write rational, then eyes. Chronic and stretching. Next one.
You might not know how many calories were in that sandwich, but if you got lunch at the Massachusetts General Hospital cafeteria, you could tell with one glance whether you'd made a healthful choice. Offerings are color-coded. Simply posting calories does not always get consumers to make healthier choices. So, researchers tried something different. Mass General's cafeteria food and beverage options were classified as least, somewhat, or most healthful with red, yellow, or green labels. Green is healthiest. Researchers then tracked some 4,600 employees. About 6 months after the changes were made, the purchases of red label foods decreased by more than 15%, and red beverages dropped by 39%. green food and drink purchases increased, according to the study in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. Making healthy food choices easier could especially help the poor and undereducated, the very populations most affected by the obesity epidemic. Mass General employees from these groups made the biggest improvements.
So first one is healthful. Next one is classified. So you can see from here it is were. So were we will use ed form because sentence is in the passive voice. Next one is beverages. beverages, especially. Epidemic. So check the spellings. Healthful, classified, beverages, especially, epidemic. Here it is were, then here you can follow the grammar rule as a classified. Healthful with single L, especially with double L.
The London Olympics are about to begin, and spectators will again be riveted by feats that would have been impossible when the modern Olympics began in 1896. Jaw-dropping records are attainable in part because of advances in material science. New materials have led to equipment like super light and strong voltage poles and bathing suits that improve the flow of bodies in water. Such developments are detailed in a series of articles in the journal Nature Materials. The scientists say other advances are afoot that build sensors into athletes' clothing for instance, measuring performance in training, or protective gear that repairs itself when damaged. And advances in material science can help Olympians internally as well. Elite athletes may tear cartilage or break bones, but cartilage doesn't have enough blood and cells to mend well, and sometimes bones just can't naturally bridge the break. So scientists are homing in on the best combinations of biocompatible materials, along with growth factors and other compounds, as well as implanted cells and proteins, to help mend what have been until now nearly intractable injuries, so that world-class athletes can push the limits of sports and science.
So first one is the spectators. Next is the bathing suits, measuring performance. Next is elite athletes. So you can check the spellings of athletes in the paragraph. You can check from here athletes. Next is combinations. So let's check it. Spectators, suits, performance, athletes. Check your spellings of athletes in the paragraph. And next one is combinations.
It's not easy being yellow. Bananas now face 2 separate fungal epidemics which threaten to pluck the fruit off of our tables. Fortunately, researchers have now sequenced banana DNA, producing the genome of a banana variety that may hold the secret to defeating the diseases. The report is in the journal Nature. Today, half of all bananas, including the ones you probably buy, belong to the Cavendish variety, whose popularity stems in part from having no seeds. But this trait also removes sexual reproduction from the equation. The bananas are thus all genetically identical and identically vulnerable to the 2 fungal epidemics, Panama disease and black leaf streak disease. Researchers sequenced the genome of a banana variety called D.H. pahang, whose genes contributed to the Cavendish. While the genome shows where this fruit fits in the history of plant evolution, it could also help researchers understand why D.H. pahang, unlike its descendant, is resistant to the funguses behind both Panama and black leaf streak disease. Knowing the genes responsible for this resistance could help breeders create stronger, more resistant bananas, which has a lot of appeal.
So first one is fortunately. So your lines and here, so you have to start with the capital letter, fortunately with single L. Next one is variety. Next is reproduction. Identically vulnerable. Whose genes contributed. Its descendant. resistance. So check spellings: fortunately, variety, reproduction, vulnerable, contributed, descendant, and resistance.
Interesting sound. I would have guessed a Wild West performer was practicing with a bullwhip while also vacuuming. But no, that sound is apparently produced by the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights. Since 2000, researchers at Finland's Aalto University have been collecting audio as part of what's called the Aurora Acoustics Project. Folk tales had long held that the lights also produce odd sounds, but the claims were hard to prove, and some researchers thought that any noises produced by the energetic particles that cause the light show would be far too high in the sky to be heard on the ground. But the latest results indicate that at least some sounds are produced very close to the ground. A setup of 3 ground-based microphones allowed researchers to estimate that the sounds occur perhaps just 70 meters up. The results were just presented at the International Congress on Sound and Vibration in Vilnius, Lithuania. More information about the sounds of the Northern Lights could lead to a more complete understanding of the phenomenon. So if you see an aurora, keep your ears open.
So first one is practicing. Next one is have been collecting. Energetic particles, ground-based microphones, and understanding of the phenomenon. So let's check the spellings. Practicing, collecting, energetic, microphones. Because here it is set up 3 ground based, so 3 is the plural, so we will write here microphones, and next one is the phenomenon.
Just like corporations, stars too can engage in mergers and acquisitions. A new study has identified a pair of white dwarf stars heading toward a merger. White dwarfs are the hot, super dense remnants of spent stars. In a binary system called J0651, 2 white dwarfs circle each other very rapidly. The binary pairing completes an orbit in less than 13 minutes. And that already rapid orbital dance is speeding up as the 2 white dwarfs spiral in on each other. Each year, their orbital period shrinks by 0.3 milliseconds. That's actually a pretty dramatic change on astronomical timescales. In about 1 million years, the white dwarfs will get so close that the larger one will start to cannibalize its smaller companion. Before long, the 2 stars will likely become one. The study appears in the Astrophysical Journal Letters. The tightly wound white dwarf binary should also be radiating gravitational waves, ripples in the fabric of space and time. But today's gravitational wave detectors are not sensitive enough to detect them. And that's okay. Astronomers have another 1 million years before things get really interesting to build an instrument that's up to the task.
So first one is has. So with has we use the third form of verb, and it is identified. Third form of verb. Next is pairing completes. Orbital period shrinks. Astronomical timescales. Its smaller companion. Ripples in the fabric, and build an instrument. So here it is an. With an we use vowel A, E, I, O, U. Has ed form of verb. Identified, completes, shrinks, timescales, companion, fabric, and instrument. Next one.
Scientists are looking for Earth-like planets around other stars, but one way to limit the search can be to figure out where an Earth-like planet cannot exist and eliminate those types of systems. In a new study, astronomers turned their attention to so-called hot Jupiters. These are Jupiter-sized planets that have an orbit of only about 3 days. The scientists looked at 63 hot Jupiters to see if they could find evidence for any nearby Earth-like planets. They found none. But it could be that the companion planets are too small in size or mass, or just aren't detectable with the current techniques. So the researchers then turned to hot Neptunes and warm Jupiters. These are Jupiters with slightly longer orbits. They found only 2 potential nearby planets among 222 hot Neptunes. And of the 31 warm Jupiters, 5 showed evidence of a companion. The findings are in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The current theory is that hot Jupiters formed and then migrated in towards their stars. Researchers say that the migration might have, quote, disrupted the formation of Earth-like planets. Good thing our Jupiter kept its cool.
So first one is the planets. So if you have confusion in this spelling, then you can check here, planets. Next one is eliminate. Eliminate. Could find evidence. Are not detectable. Detectable. Slightly. With single L. Next is the findings, and last one is the migration. So let's check the spellings. Planets, eliminate, evidence, detectable. Check your spelling, slightly, findings, and next one is the migration. So next one.
Does an ice-cold drink actually taste better than the same beverage at room temperature? Depends on what its taste is. A new study finds that the intensity of some flavors varies with temperature. The work is in the journal Chemosensory Perception. Researchers took solutions that tasted bitter, sour, sweet, or astringent, a flavor found in legumes and raw produce that creates a dry, puckering feel in the mouth. They either chilled the solutions to 5 degrees Celsius, the recommended temperature for keeping food cool, or heated the solution to 35 degrees Celsius, a couple degrees below human body temperature. Volunteers then rated the tastes. Both sour and astringent solutions tasted stronger at warm temperatures, and the intensity lasted longer than it did with chilled drinks. Bitter flavors came through best when chilled, and temperature had no effect on perception of sweetness. For most people, temperature can enhance flavors, but for some, dubbed thermal tasters, temperature alone can be a flavor. Heating or cooling parts of the tongue creates the sensation of taste without food, a finding that's hard to swallow.
First one is intensity. Researchers took solutions a couple degrees. Next one is volunteers. So your line ended here. So start with the capital letter. The V is capital. So volunteers. Next is chilled. On perception. Next one is thermal. Intensity, solutions, because here it is researchers. So research is plural, then they will take the plural. Solutions, now degrees, a couple hai, couple is also a plural. Now volunteers, chilled, when means jab. जब के साथ हम यूज करेंगे ed form of verb. Perception, and here it is thermal.
As it ages, white paper turns a distinctive yellow. But why? To find out, scientists artificially aged modern paper to reveal the changes on the molecular level.
The research is in the journal Physical Review Letters. For 48 days, 3 unbleached paper samples aged rapidly in reactors that simulated different environmental conditions. The researchers then compared the artificially aged samples to the real deal, 3 pieces of paper crafted in 15th century Europe. This technique allowed them to gauge the types and amounts of changes going on. About 90% of the weight of old paper is cellulose, the sturdy material that makes up plant cell walls. But over time, cellulose fibers oxidize. The process modifies parts of various molecules and turns them into what are called chromophores, which absorb light. White paper is white because it reflects all colors of light. Aging paper filled with chromophores reflects wavelengths that make it look yellow. The non-destructive technique used in this study could inform research to preserve and even whiten ancient texts and art, and give paper conservation a brighter outlook.
First one is distinctive. Next is unbleached paper samples. So here it is plural. Then artificially, FICIALLY, artificial, then add ly. Next is this technique. So here it is this. So with this we use singular form. This technique. And next one is material. So let's check the answers. Distinctive samples, because 3 unbleached paper है तो plural use करेंगे. Artificial, then write ly. Technique, because this है singular. Material, now modifies and preserve.
On election day, where do you vote? If it's in a church, you might be inclined to vote more conservatively than if you cast your ballot at a school or government building. That's according to research published in the International Journal for the Psychology of Religion. And the effect seems to hold, whether you're Christian, Muslim, or agnostic, progressive, independent, or conservative. The study found that when random people were surveyed in front of a church, they gave more socially and politically conservative responses than people surveyed while standing in front of a government building. The shift in people's attitudes, the researchers suggest, was likely a result of visual priming, meaning that people who could see the religious building were, consciously or not, getting cues that influenced their response. The surveys were conducted in Europe, so it's possible American voters might react differently. But the survey included subjects from more than 30 countries to try to minimize a particular national bias. So, before you cast your vote this election year, think about whether your view is influencing your views.
So first one is inclined, before blank it is be. So be के साथ हम जो use करेंगे वो third form of verb use करेंगे. So inclined. Second is progressive. Were है तो were, if the sentence is in the passive voice then we use ed form of verb. So here it is surveyed. SURVEY, it's survey, then write ed, surveyed. Religious and then minimize. 2 है, with 2 we use first form of verb. Minimize, religious, inclined, progressive and survey.
Music, film, and video game makers face a new online digital world, and some are testing a revolutionary pricing system, pay what you want. But a new study finds that when consumers can name their own price, many opt out of buying at all. The study is in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. For the research, tour boat passengers posed for photos. Each boat ride announced a price of $15 per picture, but they then charged either $15, $5, or the option to pay what you want. As expected, the fewest tourists purchased photos when they had to pay full price, but more customers bought photos when they cost $5 than when prices were pay what you want, which could have saved passengers even more. The researchers suggest that choosing to pay less than an announced, lower than expected price made people feel cheap. With choices then limited to spending more money or feeling like a tightwad, potential customers simply opted out of the purchase. So on sea or land, a low set price may catch the most fish.
So first one is revolutionary. Check your spellings of revolutionary. So first write down the revolution, then add ARY in the end. So first check the spelling of revolution. Next is when consumers. As expected, so check the spellings of expected from here. Fewest tourists, then potential customers. So revolutionary, consumer, expected, tourist and potential.
If you enjoy sharing all your likes and dislikes on Facebook, you're definitely not alone. Research finds that broadcasting personal opinions gives people the same sense of reward as earning money. The study is in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Study subjects had their brains scanned while they either talked about their opinions or judged the beliefs of another, and sharing their own point of view stimulated more activity in the reward processing parts of the subjects' brains. In another experiment, participants got to choose among reporting their own opinion, judging someone else's opinion, or answering a true or false question, and for each choice they could earn varying amounts of money. Rather than maximize their winnings by answering the questions that were worth the most cash, people preferred to talk about themselves, even though they sacrificed an average of 17% of their potential earnings to do it. For the participants, sharing personal information was its own reward, which means that people like comedian Patton Oswalt, who tweets photos of what he's having for lunch, probably feel like $1 million.
So first one is you are definitely. Check your spellings of definitely. Next one is scanned with double N. Activity in the reward. True or false. It's simple. Varying with ing. Could learn varying amounts of money. Next one is sacrificed and last one is probably. Definitely, scanned, reward, false, varying, sacrificed. So first it is sacrificed, then D, probably. So next one.
Americans still fall short of the recommended daily portions of fruit and vegetables, and kids are notoriously averse to veggies at the school cafeteria. So researchers tested whether visual cues of healthful foods could increase consumption at a grade school with 800 students. First, the scientists determined how many kids put carrots and green beans on their trays and how much they ate. 3 months later, they did the same analysis, but on the second day, the trays had pictures of carrots and green beans in the trays' compartments. On the day with the photo cues, more than twice as many kids took green beans as on the control day, and more than 3 times as many kids took carrots. Average consumption per student went up as well. The study was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. The researchers note that the effect needs to be tested elsewhere for longer than 2 days, and the amount of veggies eaten still didn't meet the government recommendations. But if pictures of burgers can sell meaty meals, maybe fresh fruit and veggie photos can play a part in the campaign for healthier kids.
So first one is averse. So researchers tested. This is the second one. Third one is determined. Next one is average consumption. Next one is medical association. So here it is association with capital A. Association. Recommendations. So check spellings carefully. Recommendations. So first write down the recommend, then Asians. Next one is campion. Campion. Averse, tested, determined, consumption, association with capital A. Next one is recommendations. Check your spellings of recommendations. Next one is campion.
Global warming might seem like a botanical boon. After all, milder temperatures and more carbon dioxide and nitrogen should feed flora. But a 10-year study has found that any initial positive effect on plant growth from climate change may soon disappear. The report is in the journal Nature Climate Change. Researchers transplanted vegetation from 4 grassland ecosystems to lower, warmer elevations. They also modified the precipitation at the transplant sites based on altered rainfall estimates. For the first year, the plants did great, producing more biomass and churning out more oxygen for us. But their productivity went down for the rest of the decade. What happened? Warming did speed up the nitrogen cycle, which should have increased nitrogen's availability as plant fertilizer, but a lot of the nitrogen left the soil through runoff or uptake into the atmosphere. In addition, productive native plants began to lose out to species that thrive at higher temperatures but are less productive than the natives. Warmer temperatures may spur immediate growth, but in the long term, we can't expect plants to like it hot.
So first one is the botanical, a botanical boon. Next one ecosystems, क्योंकि यहाँ पे 4 है, with 4 we use plural form of verb. Out more oxygen for us. Next one is the availability. So first, next one is availability, bility. Runoff or uptake, and next one is expect. Botanical, ecosystems, oxygen, availability. Check your spellings of availability. First write down the avail, then ability. Uptake and expect.
Every time you inhale, oxygen passes from your windpipe to your lungs and on into your bloodstream. But what if your windpipe was blocked? Getting the gas straight to your blood could save your life. Wait, put down that syringe. A large air bubble in a blood vessel can kill you. But what if the bubbles were only a few millionths of a meter in diameter? Researchers coated tiny amounts of oxygen gas with fatty molecules to create microparticles. Suspended in solution, the microparticles formed a foam containing 50 to 90% oxygen. In a beaker of blood, the foam was able to quickly transfer its oxygen to the cells. Then the researchers tested it in animals. Normally, a blocked windpipe cuts off the blood supply of oxygen, leading to brain damage and death. But when rabbits with blocked windpipes received injections of the microparticles, their blood oxygen levels and heart rates remained stable. The work is in the journal Science Translational Medicine. The foam may someday buy time for human patients, so that even someone with a closed airway can breathe easy.
So first one is the vessel, blood vessel, क्योंकि A है singular होगा. Meter in diameter. Particles, transfer, particles के spelling आप यहाँ से check कर सकते हो. Transfer, rabbits, injections and breathe easy. So let's check it. Check the spellings. Next one.
Dogs aren't just man's best friend. Previous studies have shown that kids with dogs are less likely to develop asthma. Now a new study may show how, if results from mice apply to us. The work was presented at a meeting of the American Society for Microbiology. The study tests what's called the hygiene hypothesis. The idea is that extreme cleanliness may actually promote disease later on. Researchers collected dust from homes that had a dog. They fed that house dust to mice. They then infected the mice with a common childhood infection called respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV. Mice who ate the dog dust were protected against RSV infection symptoms, like inflamed, mucus-coated airways, suggesting exposure helped them stave off the virus. Those mice also had more diverse communities of gut bacteria than control mice did. Researchers say our pets' microbes may colonize our gut too, and help the immune system learn to respond to infections. That's important because when kids develop severe RSV, their risk of asthma goes up. So next time Buster sheds all over the couch, think of it as a bonus dose of probiotics.
So first one is called the hygiene hypothesis. Next one, childhood infection. Child and hood, we will write it combined. Suggesting exposure, may colonize, learn to respond. To है, then ed, first form of verb, then as a bonus. Check spellings. Next one.
True to their name, boa constrictors squeeze the life out of their prey. But how does a boa know it's snuffed out a rat? The snake listens for a heartbeat. When it stops, that's the cue to let go, according to a study in the journal Biology Letters. Researchers outfitted rat cadavers with artificial beating hearts. They used dead rats to control for other signs of passing, like muscle spasms. Then they warmed up the rats, set the hearts pumping, and dangled them in front of hungry boas. The snakes attacked, and as long as that rat heart kept thumping, the boas kept tightening their coils and applying bursts of pressure, sometimes for more than 20 minutes. But as soon as scientists killed the heartbeat, the boas loosened up. Even captive-born boas who'd never hunted live prey paid attention to the pulse, suggesting the behavior is innate. And for good reason. The authors say constriction takes a lot of energy, and it can be dangerous, say, if an enemy strikes while the snake's coiled around its quarry. But by following the telltale heart, boas can keep the pressure on just long enough before a relaxing meal.
First one is constrictors. Next is artificial, attacked, capped, attention, and relaxing. Constrictors, artificial, attacked, capped, attention, authors, and relaxing.
Every year, about 10 million tons of paper winds up in American landfills and incinerators, which is not only wasteful, but adds CO2 to the atmosphere. Recycling helps, but even that material has to be repulped and paperized before you can use it to print out that recipe you'll never make. But what if you could wipe the page clean and use it again? Light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation to the rescue. A new study shows that laser light can erase the toner from a piece of printed paper. The approach appears in the Proceedings of the Royal Society A. Taking a page from the Art Restoration Handbook, scientists sampled a variety of light sources to see if any could be used to strip the ink from laser-printed documents without damaging or discoloring the paper. UV and infrared were too harsh, but a bright green laser, applied in 4 nanosecond pulses, vaporizes the print, leaving paper that looks as good as new. Such unprinters will probably run about $30,000, so they probably won't catch on for home use. But people in the recycling world might find that the green laser fits the bill for making paper that's really green.
So first one is atmosphere. By stimulated emission of radiation, stimulated, can erase. Restoration, handbook, handbook combined, vaporize, and last one is bill.
I'm just gonna bash your brains.
Jack Nicholson playing the crazed caretaker in The Shining makes me reach for a blanket. Now, a study finds that people we think are, well, creepy, can actually make us feel colder. The research will be published in the journal Psychological Science. Researchers interviewed 40 college undergraduates. During each interaction, the experimenter was either chummy with the student or very stiff and professional. The investigator also alternated between mimicking students' posture, a signal of rapport, and not doing anything at all. Participants then completed a questionnaire designed to find out how hot or cold they felt. The results showed that the subjects actually felt colder when the investigator acted inappropriately or sent mixed signals. The researchers conjecture that because the brain tries to interpret social cues and purely physical ones simultaneously, people unconsciously associate icy stares and chilly interactions with actual physical coldness. So the next time you have to visit your doctor with the creepy receptionist, bring a sweater.
So first one is the psychological science. So write P with capital letter because science is with capital S. Professional, very stiff and professional, simultaneously. Next one is the with creepy receptionist. check spellings because it's little bit difficult.
For a company that made its name by building one of the world's most popular social networks, Facebook itself often comes across as, well, antisocial. Facebook is invaluable as a forum for finding long-lost friends, not to mention sharing links, photos, and personal videos. For better and worse, the site has even redefined the word like. Of course, Facebook manages to use all of this goodwill to its own advantage, and the company often needs to be reminded that there are limits to how much it can exploit user information for profit. Facebook has settled a class action lawsuit that forces it to be more clear that clicking on the like button means your name and photo can be used to endorse whatever movie, product, or politician you liked. Most recently, Facebook surreptitiously modified user profiles to replace their original email addresses with @facebook.com addresses. Mail sent to that address becomes a Facebook message to a user. You'd think that a company with so many loyal followers would have announced this ahead of time. That's a definite dislike.
So first one is invaluable. Write in, then valuable. This goodwill, that forces, addresses. So check the spelling of addresses here also. Now next one is announced. So next blank is the last blank, and these are the most repeated, and you can check the spellings, you can learn the different vocabulary.
Have you ever wanted to turn down the volume at a deafening concert or noisy bar? Envy the whale. A new study finds that toothed whales can reduce their own auditory sensitivity when they expect a loud sound. The work is presented at this week's Acoustics 2012 meeting. Whales and dolphins rely on their responsive hearing to interpret returning echolocation clicks. Previous research suggested that these marine mammals could dull their hearing before uttering outgoing echolocation clicks, which are very loud. Could they use the same coping mechanism for external noises? To find out, researchers trained a false killer whale that a loud noise would always follow a brief warning signal. Then, they attached suction cup sensors to the outside of the whale's head and played the signal. The sensors measured brainwaves that indicated the whale did reduce its hearing sensitivity in expectation of a clamor. The researchers hope to test other species as well. Loud noises from ships can disturb whales. To accommodate marine life, perhaps vessels could emit signals before making a ruckus, warning whales to tune us out. Thanks for the minute. For Scientific American.
So first one is the concert, next one is the clicks, external noises, signal, measured, marine. So this is all from my side, and if you have any kind of doubts and queries, then you can write in the comment box, and you can also share your views in the comment box, and you can also mail me. My email ID is also given in the description box. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and share these videos with your friends, and do subscribe to my channel.